Booyah! We're live.
Hey, it worked.
Everybody put your pants on. We're live.
Hey,
Hi,
can't
everybody. It's
talk.
Adam Zembreski. There is Evelyn. There is John. There's Matt. Welcome, welcome,
Whoa.
welcome. And thank you for joining. And to our millions of fans around the world, hello. I'm Adam Zembreski with Hospiamo. There's my brother Matt with Agile Game Changers. We got John Cardonia and Evelyn Barnes Willingham with us here today. We are going to jump right in. Evelyn, you are a previous special guest or previous guest. You know how all this works. Thank you for joining us on episode number 2. Evelyn is in Alabama, hotel leader and hotel visionary. We got Yolanda Adams that just popped on to say hello. She was from episode 3. Hey, Yolanda. Evelyn is also the CEO and founder of Boss Women on a Mission, Southern Division, an amazing organization about women and female empowerment. And we got John Cardonia coming our way from South Carolina, not too far outside of Charlotte where I am. And I've known John for many years, 10, 20, 30 years by now. And we are in the hotel business together and have worked together many times. And then my brother Matt with Agile Game Changers. I will say that there is I'm very proud to know a lot of real, genuine people in my life. John and Evelyn, I specifically invited you here to have this what's called the uncomfortable episode, number 8, because I find you both to be some of the most real, genuine people in my life. And we want to have a real, genuine conversation here today. So you're beyond amazing. You're very real and genuine. So, and then my bro, he's been my mentor and brother since day one, literally. So, so we're gonna jump right in. We're calling it the uncomfortable episode. We have a theme with all of our episodes, and the theme is around hospitality visionaries, but around people that move things forward, that create things in their life, and that have a following and a network of proud supporters. And y'all are a bridge in of itself to many different people and organizations and cultures. And so the theme of today is I wrote it down. I was really thinking about it. I said, what is the theme and why is this the uncomfortable episode? And I wrote here, I'm going to add this to the stream here. It's our little welcome. And I wrote here the uncomfortable episode number 8, uncomfortable for whom? Okay, so it might not be uncomfortable for everyone, even on this as special guest. It's uncomfortable for me. And so the theme, and I like to do this in my life, and it's a good practice for everyone. If you find something to be uncomfortable, then embrace it. Okay. And if you find something to be that you're afraid of, find somebody to work with to help you overcome it. Right. And so and don't avoid it, because if you avoid it, that fear grows. And so the theme that I was texting my brother Matt back and forth a little bit, and I just said, I think that collaboration grows empathy and understanding, and avoidance grows fear and worry. And so if we want more empathy and understanding in our life, then let's just work together. Let's talk about things that we might not want to talk about because they're uncomfortable. And so we're going to be talking about the race and gender and ethnicities and backgrounds and cultural differences. And in particular, the uncomfortableness is around the words that we use to describe others, individuals, people as groups, families, areas of the country, areas of the world. And we're using the United States Census as a little bit of a backdrop here. And so everyone's got opinions about the boxes that we're supposed to fill out. And in researching it, I was actually educated myself quite a bit. So that is the basic intro. And hello, my bro. Hello to John, and hello to Evelyn. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
Doing great.
So I find myself to be have a decent sense of humor, although the sense of humor is not always understood by everyone or appreciated. But I like to start it off with a little bit of a joke, but this is very relevant. So when I was in my early 20s at the University of Connecticut, there was a stand-up comedian. I remember we were out, and I was in the front row, and this guy singled me out and asked who I was, and he asked about my last name, Zembrowski, and I said, my name's Adam, and he goes, what's your last name? I said, Zembrowski. He goes, oh. He said something like, oh, that's a nice Irish name. And he goes, oh, so you're Polish? And I said, well, kind of. It's a Polish last name, but my mom's from Sicily. She's Sicilian. And without even stopping to think, he said, oh, so you're a Sicilian Polak? What does that mean? You gave yourself an offer you couldn't refuse? So it's in our life, and my brothers too, with a name like Zembrowski with an SKI, people assume, we're Polish, and we really don't have a lot of like Polish culture in our life. I think later in life, my dad, he's teaching us some words like dziękuję and things like that, and it's fun. But we heard a lot of Polish jokes growing up, and they were funny, and found them always to be funny. And being in the hotel business, much like our friends here, we meet people from around the world with all kinds of different last names. And it's one of the things that probably attracted me to the industry and also kept me into the industry. It's because I was trained to ask people about their last name or where they were from and about what kind of food they like. I'm just infinitely curious about all of it. What kind of sports did you play? What's it like when you go back home with your family and when you're not here at the hotel? And I know for a fact that those conversations are not encouraged as much as they were 25, 30 years ago, meaning we're not supposed to ask about their last name. That's what's made it a little bit uncomfortable. If we look for words and conversational items, my favorite topic is always cultural items, like what's your family culture? That's become a bit uncomfortable to talk about, especially when we're talking about people that we don't know personally. So I am going to, so what brought us to this topic was actually the fact that we had somebody cancel on us a few days ago and or 4 or 5 days ago. And we said, you know what, this is a topic that we've been wanting to talk about. Reached out, and Evelyn is available, John is available, and I found this author and writer and professor and doctor in researching this, and I typed something into Google like, am I using the right words to describe people, or something like that, and I might even use ChatGPT, right, to say, what are the words used, and are people offended? Is it correct? Is it not? And I was just kind of having my own little one-way conversation with the internet. And this gentleman's article that he wrote, Dr. Joseph Cooper, and by the way, I've not spoken with him. I am not promoting his book for any other reason, but I found what he had to say fascinating. And it really touched my heart. And so I ordered his book, and his book arrived yesterday. And his book is From Exploitation Back to Empowerment. And I have not had a chance to read it yet. But man, this quote from his article in 2016 is what popped up on the internet when I first started reading it. So I'm going to read it and then ask John, Matt, and Evelyn your thoughts on it. So he wrote in here, not in the book, but in an article that he wrote in 2016. In response to the problematic nature of terms such as people of color, minorities, marginalized groups, under quotes, and then quote unquote oppressed groups, I call for a shift in language. In the pursuit of a more equitable and just society, it is important that we develop and use language that disrupts oppressive systems. There's many other quotes here, and I have another one here, but let me just throw it out there to John, Matt, Evelyn. What pops up in your mind when you hear that?
Well, for me, when I hear minorities, it make you feel like, what does the word minor mean? It means small, little. So it can make you feel like that you're small to others.
Inferior, less important
Hmm.
than the majority,
Correct.
right? So it's comparing.
I think it's comparative, and it could, I think I can relate when they say from exploitment to empowerment. When you speak like that, then it's not empowering. When a person think they're the minority of the bunch, we got to get away from that and realize God made us all. And if I bleed and you bleed, we both bleed red. So it's not a white black thing. And a lot of people are not wanting to be called black anymore. I have an uncle who does not go by black. He'll say he's not black. So it's not, and that's why the job applications and different questions going now is saying, um, would you rather not even mark anything, basically? Because a lot of times when you mark your race, you may not get called. And I'm not just speaking for black or anything. So it's just it's a subject that needs to really be spoke on, and honestly, someone actually hearing it and doing something about it, and just saying, instead of saying, well, we got a inclusive and unconscious bias webinar for you to get on. We got you. You'll do the training. We all do the training, but nobody really, really, really does the training.
That's
Thank you,
great.
Evelyn.
That's great.
Go ahead, John.
I think that was spot on when that came up. And Evan, when you mentioned that about the job application, you are so dead on. Personally, I think on the job application anymore, that needs to be omitted. What difference does it make, race, creed, or color you are? As long as your skill set matches the job, who cares? Who really cares? I have worked with so many different cultures in the hospitality industry. To me, they're friends. I don't care. I mean, we're all equal as far as I'm concerned. The only person that's here to judge is the man above. You're not the judge. I'm not the judge, period. And I appreciate every culture and everyone what they stand for.
Evelyn, when you were you mentioned the word minority, and it's a very good point. When you were growing up, was that word used when you were a child, like within your family, or is that something that you heard growing up outside your family?
You're on mute.
You're on. You jumped on mute, Evelyn.
No, it's back on mute again.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
Okay. Growing up in the family, no. It's just something I heard outside. I was raised up very optimistic. No matter how much money you got, you're still important. No matter how much money you got, you still got to dress up and look nice. You got to smell nice. So I was brought up to plow through it, get through it, give up. So my noise is something I heard out forever, just everywhere else. I know.
Very true.
We got a comment here from Yolanda Adams. I'm going to put it up here. Thanks, Yolanda. She said, I still believe that our culture and our roots define us. I am Latina and I'm proud of it. I would not like to lose my essence or who I am. Thanks, Yolanda. Yeah, it's that our culture and our roots define us. We're going to go back to that. We got Derek Farley asking for a comment. He wants to weigh in. Absolutely, Derek. Derek, you have been a special guest here also. I am going to do something at last minute, and I'm going to text you the special link for you to join, for you to say something. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So if y'all could just give me 10 seconds, I'm going to send this over to Derek.
And I'll comment while you're doing that, Adam. So what stood out for me in that first quote, I love the second piece that you had shared with me earlier, bro. The second piece that we didn't read through, but I think that's really, really important because anyway, the first quote, it says, "I call for a shift in language." I like the strength of that statement. And it's like you're saying, Evelyn, it's easy to say something like, oh, go do this training. And that's what all these corporate companies have, right? And then diversity, equity, inclusion, do the training. But we all have unique paths to get to where we are today. And the American culture has taken hundreds of years to get to where it is today. And to shift the culture and the communication is really, really important. And it takes uncomfortable conversations like this here, like you're saying, Evelyn, you go do a training. Training's usually yourself with a computer and you go through something and that's it. The real training would be having a real conversation with people of all backgrounds and talking about this stuff that's uncomfortable, right? And getting into it. Because a lot of it, we don't know what might be offensive, as you said at the beginning, bro. We don't know what might be offensive to other people. We don't know and other people may not know what we find offensive, right? And
we don't know, and that is that is the question, and that was why we in thinking about this, I put on our cover on LinkedIn Live here, and thank you to LinkedIn again. So what do? Do we stop speaking? Do we shut up because we don't want to offend? Well, nobody wants to offend, right? And or do we get louder, or do we speak up? And so a good way to look at that, and Derek has the link, and he came on and he'll come back on. So but one example is if I'm speaking to one person and I say something, there's always a chance that person might be offended by what I have to say if I'm speaking my mind, right? If I'm being myself, and there's always a chance, right? So if I'm speaking to two people, now there's more of a chance that one of those people will be, well, what if I'm speaking to 100? What if I'm speaking to 10,000? What if I wrote a book? What if I wrote something creative and I put it out there and 1,000 people read it? The chances are it's almost guaranteed that at least one person's going to be offended. So the question is, does that mean we don't express ourselves and don't put out things for fear that we might offend somebody? And it comes down to intention, I think. Maybe what is our intention in putting things out there and saying things? And if it is about our theme about collaboration brings empathy and understanding, and avoidance creates fear and worry, I think the answer is there to me. That's my opinion. If we avoid it and don't talk about it and don't write things and don't speak things, and then that is going to create fear and uncertainty. What do you think, Evelyn?
I think, I look at everything from, it's got pros, it's got cons. And I consider myself optimistic, but a realist, never a pessimistic person. Personality tests, they don't really lie. If you tell the truth, they don't lie. And my personality is, I think it was like 7% avoidant. Like, I'm a person that don't avoid anything. And to me, that's needed in leadership, but it's sometimes where you should avoid some things. But what I teach leaders is just be quiet. You got to educate yourself on the right ways to deal with different people. You got to give the same message, but you got to tailor it a little bit different. You have to rock this person to sleep. You may have to be blunt with this person. But the only thing you can do is have a teachable mind, spirit, and an open mind. And what I mean by that is, to my best, or Hispanic, or Latino. I have friends in Hawaii, right?
Evelyn, you're breaking up a little bit. Evelyn, I didn't want to interrupt you, but you're breaking up a little bit and getting a little frozen.
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay, but I think what needs to be done is having a teachable spirit, an open mind, and sitting down and being okay with having friends from different backgrounds. What I've learned with having friends that were Hispanic or different cultures, Canadian, different people. Let me give you an example. I remember being young and in the nail shop, right? And at the nail shops, most of them were Asian. So I remember people saying, well, when they speak their language, they're talking derogatory about you, right?
That's not true.
But what I had to learn, I'm 16 at the nail shop, but again, that's just small-minded people feeling like that. Once I got older and I had friends from different backgrounds with different cultures, my really close friend from Mexico told me, Evelyn, when we speak in our first language or our native tongue, it's because it's respectful. And it's disrespectful to speak. It's disrespectful to speak English if our first language is Spanish. So now I'm able to teach my friends that no, they're speaking in their native tongue because it's respect to each other.
I hear you on that.
They also taught me that you don't walk up and ask a person if they're Puerto Rican, if they're Cuban. You don't, because that could be discriminatory too. You may say, are you Hispanic or of Latino descent, but you can't ask those questions. So I think to answer your question, no, we don't be quiet. We learn how to communicate with different cultures, and you only learn about how to communicate by actually putting yourself in the situation to be open-minded, to be around different cultures.
That's a good segue for someone who just joined us. He is a communications expert. He has been in public relations and writing public material for Derek, I don't know how many years, but for a lot of years. And this is a topic that I would love to hear what you have to say. I'm sure you've been dealing with this also from your perspective. What are your thoughts? What do you want to say about that? About this?
Yeah, can you hear me? Just want to make sure you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I loved what she said. I heard a bit of a dichotomy that they're speaking in their native tongue, which I completely respect, and respect is really what it's about. My love language, and you know how that goes, is communication. But if I'm in a place where I don't think people are talking derogatory, and I just trust that maybe I'm too forgiving. But if you want to communicate with me, I can't learn your language. I'm 57. I'm not going to learn Spanish. I'm not going to learn other languages. It's just just if you're I got to be careful with this one, but I think communication is the big deal. And speaking to something that came up earlier where I was having trouble to get through is labels. I just get rid of adjectives. I know when someone's black, I don't need to hear that. It doesn't matter. They're a child of the king. And I'm a preacher, as you probably have already ascertained. But you don't have to identify someone by the color of their skin. The best speech I've ever heard, and nothing else mattered, was Martin Luther King's. Just drop the adjectives and keep it to special. Like I work with special children, and a lot of labels have been thrown on those children, like special needs, special talents, and all that stuff. Let's just stick with special. We're all special. We all have something to offer. We all have the Holy Spirit in our system. Just use it. But I just think we get too caught up in labels. I will not read an article in the USA Today where Black is in the headline. They are people. They are equal. I love them all. And I just get so tired of the mainstream media, which unfortunately I am immersed in constantly, that has to do that. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't see color. Oh, I see color. I can pick a crayon out of a Crayola box, but not when it comes to people. No way. No way.
Yeah, Derek, it's all good. And so you asked a question in there about why is it important? Why is it even there? I'm going to take a moment here to share some of the screenshots and I'll call it research that I did for our call. And I found some things very interesting. And I'm just going to read what I found. Okay. And it has to do with the U.S. Census, where these check boxes about where do you come from and how these questions are asked. And it goes way back into the history. The 1619 project, if anyone has seen that on Netflix, and the entire topic of race in America. This word here is where I got that from. There is a woman who is addressing a lot of these conversations, and I would highly recommend that. It's a show with episodes. It's absolutely beautiful, and she uses the word "silly" to even even what you were just saying, Derek, about why do we use these adjectives to describe the color of somebody's skin, or whether they're Korean or Filipino or Japanese or Chinese, and so I started to read up on this a little bit. And so this is today's. So this is the United States Census that they do every 10 years. This is from 2010. And this is what it looks like. It says, person number 1, mark 1 in the box or more boxes. Okay. There is a statement that I read on the U.S. Census that does say that you can check more than 1 box. And I'm going to read a statement that they had here, and I always try to cite my sources. So I found this on Bloomberg.com. Okay. And this is the beginning of the complete history of U.S. Census race boxes. Okay. This is what it is today. Now, I know that you probably can't see this in the world here, but I highlighted it here. Bloomberg did a complete history and an infographic about this. From 1790, since America became the United States, or just before that, all the way up until present day, about how these races and check boxes have been referred. So this is a little bit of a zoom in, and this is the first part. So if you, I apologize if you can't see. This is the best I could do with my digital technology and expertise. And so in 1790, the first census that was done, there were 3 groups. There were slaves, free white females and males, and then other free persons. The next one was about the same. The next one is about the same. That's in 1830. And then in 1850, it was just black and mulatto and white. 1865 was the end of the Civil War. Emancipation Proclamation, I believe, was 1861. So here's 1860, and Indian, Chinese, black, and mulatto were added, and then white. Late 1800s here we have Chinese and Japanese, Indian, Chinese, black, and mulatto, and then in 1890 here, a couple words that I had never heard before. There's Evelyn. Evelyn went out and she's back. So these are a couple words that I had never heard before. This is black, mulatto, quadroon, and octoroon. So that was in 1890. So then we're going to go on to the next ones here. But let me just ask, has anyone even heard of the quadroon and octoroon? And I looked them up. I now know, but this does start to tell a story here. So what are your thoughts on this? I'll start with John. You're on top here. John, any thoughts on this?
Really, no, I've never heard of those.
No, just in the
Kind of
first,
thing.
say 100 years of the census.
Yeah, I've never heard of anything like that.
Okay.
That's new to me.
Derek, Matt, Evelyn, you guys, what are your thoughts here?
I'll take a stab at that. I ran an experiment when I was in corporate PR for PR Newswire, and I noticed a trend that everybody that was getting hired were white. And I'm like, well, that's not possible. I know people are special in different ways, but they would call them in for interviews. And yes, we had diversity in interviews, but I noticed that every time they walked in the office, well, we decided to hire so-and-so. And the so-and-so was white. And I said, okay, we're not doing in-person interviews. We're going to do it based on credibility, based on experience, based on education and expertise. And we turned that system around, and we became more diverse, almost 50% of color. And it just proved to me that, you really do get evaluated on the color of your skin. Not in my world, but in corporate and stuff like that. So it was, and I even brought that up to all my managers. I'm like, have you seen a change? Have you seen the change? Because you guys were just hiring people that you guys were comfortable with, and that doesn't work. You hire the person that's best for the job, and that's the end of the day. And some of the best people I've had were of other ethnicity. And they were great, and they worked hard and did all this. And I'm not disparaging white people, because I'm one of them. But when I did that, you would not have believed how the numbers turned around in terms of our diversity. And I said, this is what we stand for. This is what I stand for. I want the best person. That's it. And it was a really telling thing. Now that was 15 years ago. But
Sure.
I just like, we'll just stop bringing them in, hire them on the phone. You're going to ask questions without seeing them, and they are going to be welcome here like no one's ever been welcome in their life, and that's the way it's going to be. And we ended up winning all.
With that attitude, Derek, it's nice if the entire ownership of the company is saying and feeling and doing the things that you're talking about. Sometimes that's not the case, right? In some companies, it's like there's a lot of words. And so I wanted to ask Evelyn, you went out and came back in about maybe some of your experience, but specifically, this is just to put things in perspective here, y'all. Okay, so this is 2023, and this is back in 1790. And what we're saying here, just to put this in perspective, what we're saying is that, let's put adjectives aside. We're all about character and love, and that's respect, and that's all good. It makes sense. Well, back in 1790, there were 3 adjectives or 3 categories of people, and it included slaves and then free white females and males, and then everyone else that's free. And how that has gone. And so we're going to move on to the second slide, which is the kind of the middle period up until, I want to say 1950 or so, and then the next one. But Evelyn, I wanted to give you a shot. Any thoughts on this? I was curious what you think.
That's basically on diversity.
Yeah, I pointed out that I had never heard of the
names.
I had heard about but mulatto when I was very, very young. Kind of came and went. I didn't know what that really was. And then now there's black in 1890. There's black, mulatto, quadroon, and octoroon. I looked up those words, and honestly, when I looked up those words to even know what they meant, there is a lot of negativity and it seemed like it was connected with like hate speech, you know, and so that was new. So what I wanted to know what everyone's thoughts are, but Evelyn, you came out and back in.
Um, I'm with Derek when he said you got to be careful because it's a lot I want to say, but I can't. But what I can say is I've never heard of some of those names. But if we're asking about the diversity, I know Derek said he hired people there, and and this is optimistically speaking. I see it every day,
Yep.
every single day. I mean, just about 6 months ago, I went to the grocery store, and went to the bakery, and I was called a nigger. Fresh
Oh,
off of work, just at the bakery trying to get donuts like everybody else. And when I looked beside me, I just like, well, maybe he didn't mean to say that to me. And so when I looked to the side of me, Caucasian, she was Caucasian, her granddaughter was Caucasian, and the baker was Caucasian. And the baker saw, she had tears in her eyes. She's like, I'm so sorry. I said, well, now you get to see what happens real life. So it has not changed much for me. I think that even when you're given jobs, if you're not what people are used to or comfortable with, you got to work 50 times harder. Um, I don't have much that I could say about that right now, but it's
I'd
a,
like to say something.
but it's
I'd
a
like to say
fight.
something.
It's a fight every day. It's sad, I feel like it's taught at home. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter. Every neighbor we have is from a different background. Caucasian right here, Caucasian right there, Hispanic over here, Caucasian right here. My daughter, she don't understand it. The kids across the street, they don't understand. And when they see each other, they just hug on each other. They open their arms up, they hug on each other. And I take her and they see me and their parents talking. We're very cordial. We get along very well. And I think that we got to start teaching our children the right words to say, the right things to say. And my daughter won't be taught that because I don't know how much longer God has given me in this life. And I don't want my daughter thinking that she got to be around one group of people or one ethnicity, because you never know who's going to have to help you, what color they are, what background they come from. If my staff for over the last 13 years, they get on the phone and I can't understand nothing they're saying, I'll say, take the phone back, slow down, and try to understand. So, my top account in 2014 was a Japanese account, Toyota. 3,600 room nights, $250,000 a year. I encourage my team and myself, we learned Japanese. Now,
wow.
do we speak it fluently? No. We spoke enough to be able to communicate, because I would hate to be in Japan and nobody could communicate with me at all.
Good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're the leader there, and it was your decision to say that to your
That's cool.
team, and I will say a common theme here is the things that we talk about, right? It's very difficult when that attitude, the optimism, the embracing the cultural exchange and our differences and whatever they might be, and embracing that. A lot of times it's said from the top, but it's not behaved from the top, and it can create issues. Now, thanks, Yolanda. Yolanda agrees. She said, yes, education, understanding, and kindness start at home. And I am going to move on to the second slide here because there's a few other topics here and other very interesting, the history of America here with how the census is done. Evelyn came out, and I see that she's trying to come back in. So I'm going to, hey, bro, could you keep an eye out for Evelyn coming back in also?
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out. And I think part of this, bro, I'll just interject for a second. I think part of this is the history is good to know sort of like the root cause and how we started from nowhere and then got to where we are today. But I really like, as I'm listening to everyone's comments, I really love the proactive nature of a lot of Evelyn's comments that she's sharing. Like, hey, this is what I can do today for my daughter. This is what I can do today for my staff. This is what I can do today for me to help where we are today move forward in a more unified way, right? So I want to make sure that we don't spend too much time on history without spending enough time on proactive.
Good. Enough said.
Real
That's
advice.
a great. So this is where we go today. We're not going to spend any more time. Thank you for that. Okay.
Can
So
I have 10 seconds, Adam?
of course, Derek, go ahead.
Okay, I am not a spokesperson for Jesus Christ, but to Yolanda, I want to apologize on behalf of our maker. That word should never enter your ears or your child's ears. I hate it. Did I say it as a youth? Yeah, because I thought it was right. And maybe around 10 or 12, I realized it was absolutely not. But just apologies and just, I'd hate to say don't take it personal, but good Lord, how can you not? Just know that my heart's with you. Okay.
You're sharing love, Derek, and that's what it's all about. What you're describing is your empathy that you have for her and her child, and that, Matt, you just said the things that we can do as a culture and as a society. One is, honestly, we're doing it right now. We are talking about it. Okay, so that is, again, I'm going to repeat: collaboration grows empathy and understanding. Avoidance grows fear and worry. And things do happen, and I'll share something. I'm in the hotel business, right? So I have probably been in more elevators than most people, along with John and Evelyn too. And so I was listening to Evelyn, and she had a memory popped up for me. It was quite a while ago. It's got to be 15, 20 years. And I can't remember what the exact topic was, but it was at a hotel, and we were talking about race. We were talking about affirmative action. We were talking about hiring and behaviors. It was a wonderful conversation. And a young person, I want to say he was very early 20s, starting his career. He was a black man. Okay. So I know that it just, and he said, but you never changed your behavior walking into an elevator, have you? He said that to me. And I had no idea what he was talking about. And so I asked him, no, I haven't. He goes, well, we do. And we had a conversation, and that was a life-changing perspective. And I am not going to share his perspective, but I think that it goes without saying that what he was saying, in my interpretation of what he was saying, I really listened to him, and I still know him and friends with him. And he was saying that when he walks into an elevator and there's people that are not his color, white people, he changes his behavior because he wants to. He didn't want to cause any concern. And he said he acted more professional. He stood up straighter, and he did not want anyone to be scared the fact that he was in the elevator.
Bad news.
And that brought it home to me, and it's always stayed with me. And I think that is a very real. He reminded me, and has over the years, it is not just him. And the empathy that offered me, I took that as a gift, and that's a gift that he was giving to me, and I took it and I did something with it, and it with him sharing that very personal type thing, because that's not something that a lot of people talk about. So let me just ask John. John, you're you've been in the hotel business a while and been in more elevators than I. You've probably even fixed elevators with your history.
You know what,
You've
Adam,
worked on it.
what you just said reminded me of an incident that when I took on a position, I had two gentlemen of color One was about 6'6", kindest man you ever want to meet. I was there maybe 3 days, and he said, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." Pulls me in the office, and he goes, "Do I intimidate you?" And I go, "What do you mean? Do you intimidate? Do I intimidate you?" And I said, "No, but for what reason? Why would you?" And he says, "Because I'm big, I'm black, and people are feared by me." And
Oh, Lord.
I go, "That's a culture thing, man." I said, that is not. Is that you looking at them, or is that them looking at you?" He says, "Well, they don't make eye contact. They just kind of like shy away from me." And I said, "Then they don't understand. Period. Personally, I think you're a great man. I don't care who you are. You do not intimidate me for any reason unless you threaten me." And it just
John, I
blew me
will.
away that he would state that he thinks that I'm gonna do special favors because I'm intimidated. You don't intimidate me. You threaten me, then you intimidate me. But there's no way that I can't. I just could not phantom that, Adam, or anybody else on here. It just blew me away that that's the way he felt in culture. And I go, "That's ridiculous, man. You've got a heart of gold. You're a good dude." He says, "Well, I appreciate that." He says, "Not too many people would say that."
I would.
There's a movie called Unbelievable on Netflix. Another thing that I think everybody should watch. Okay, so and if I'm not going to move my camera over, but I'm 6'1". I'm not huge. Okay, but I would say that I do have opinions, and I grew up with confidence in my life, and I have spoken with a lot of people, and I have led, for example, housekeeping departments, and I've been around. Most of the people are, say smaller than I am. Okay, so I watched that movie Unbelievable, and it's a story about a young woman, and she is she gets sexually assaulted, and it changes her life, and she's very scared. And she was working in a warehouse, and she was at a very normal time of the day, and she was just working, and she was approached by a man, and she turned around, and she was scared. And the way that the camera was, it looked like this guy was 7'7", right? But he was as the conversation happened, he's just probably about 6 feet. And so that happened. I see Evelyn's back in here. So that happened. So I would suggest you watch that. But what that made me do, okay? So Matt, again, what can we do? What I did was I really thought about it, and I went through the math, and I determined that the average female of 5'3", I am 6'1", and so I asked myself a question, and I did the mathematical whatever the standard deviation, I guess, of that, and I came up. All right, what would the size of the person need to be in order for me to look up to that person physically, but also had them be, I'm like 230 pounds, 6'1". So what would, if I was a 5'3" female at 130 pounds or something, and I'm 6'1", 230, what do I look like to them? And what the answer was, it was Shaq. It was the same he in order for that to have the same perspective for me, it would have to be me knocked on the shoulder by Shaquille O'Neal, 7'1". Back in the day, forgive me, Shaq, I love you, man. But I want to say like 300 plus pounds, right? So, and so, but what would I feel like if I was tapped on the shoulder by Shaquille O'Neal, or someone of the size of Shaquille O'Neal, and I would be like, oh shit, or something like that. And so then I realized, I was like, man, I've been working with mostly people that are much smaller than I am in size, and I've been their manager. right? I have been like in charge of their payroll, in charge of their, their job, and I interview them and I give them opportunities, and they help me in my job. I help them. But I have been perceived over the years. So I started asking questions to people. John, just like that man that asked you, do I intimidate you? He's 6'1" black man asking you that because that was his experience. Well, it took me like 47 years or whatever as an adult to realize that maybe I am intimidating to people just because I'm there. And a lot of times because I am their manager is because I have their employment in mind, and they've got a job, and they probably look up to me as like, okay, you're my manager. That means what? I can write you up. I can fire you. I can give you a promotion. I can do all these different things. And I am much larger than that person. It can be incredibly intimidating. So, bro, I started asking those questions that man asked John. And I'm just going to say that. And so that's one of the things that we can do is realize. And so when I said about the camera, I put some tape up on my room, and it's where Shaquille O'Neal's eyes would be in his head, and I would have to go up like that. And so it reminds me every time I walk out that door that there's that there's the potential that I might be intimidating to somebody, and to ask those questions. And so, Evelyn, you left and came back. I'm not sure if you were hearing what we were talking about, but I wanted to. You always have nice, beautiful things to say. So did you want to say anything?
No, I heard John, and I heard you just now. And I feel like it's not just color that can be discriminatory too. If you're judging somebody because of their height, their weight, that's discrimination too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
again, if we keep an open mind and an open heart and be teachable and realize that it shouldn't be based off of how much somebody weighs, how tall they are. Now I have had that issue, and I'm 5'7". I don't mind saying it. I'm 193 pounds now. But even when I first started my career, I was like 160. I was still intimidating. When I walked up to my front desk clerks will just stop and like, what are y'all stopping for? You behind me. Okay. I want to see what you do even when I'm not here. If you're doing the right thing, that's called integrity. Even when no one's looking, should no one intimidate you? So we got to teach people too. No size, no shape, no color should intimidate you if you're doing the right thing. So I think that it could be height and weight, but I think sometimes, like you say, it's title. But what you do is let your team know, hey, one thing I don't do, I don't walk around and say I'm the boss, I'm the GM. They think my door is always wide open. I don't close my door unless I'm on a serious conversation or got employees in my office. My door is wide open. Now, what happens is they just walk in sometimes without knocking, right? But I don't want them to feel like I'm a closed door general manager. If they need anything,
You started a nonprofit called Boss Women on a Mission, and you've talked about it a lot, and you have women empowerment. So with what you're talking about, okay, so you are who you are. You got this open door policy, and you're positively affecting so many lives, and it's beautiful, right? So you did something that I have found to be very impactful. Is that you started a whole nother company that is around empowerment. And so, does this topic come up as far in the world of empowering others to do the things just like that, just like you said about having an open door policy, about people barging in, and that's okay, and the way that you talk to people, the way that you lead to people? I think that that's a big part of that empowerment part of it. And so, is that why you started Boss Women on a Mission? Is that
some of the reasons, but mostly than all. I mean, I went through postpartum depression. I've had friends that go through depression, family members. I really started this empowerment group to help people get out of depression. That was one of the main things, because it wasn't just me, it was everybody. So why not have 20 people reach 30 people, and 30 reach 100, and 100 reach 1,000. So that's why I started. But yes, these topics do come up, and what we teach women is just walk in and own the room anyway. You
I
know,
love it.
no matter how tall someone is, where they're from, you walk in and be empowered. Know
I
your
love it.
stuff. Be
And
professional.
Empowered by way of respect.
That's right. And I'm
Yeah,
glad you
empowered
said
by
that,
way of
Derek.
respect, because if you own the room, I know I based on what I've heard from you, I know your heart, or know as much as I can based on what I've heard. And it's not about going in and just, being a Tasmanian devil. It's about being respectful. I've got this thing where I just break the ice as much as I can. Like there's this young kid at Food Line, and since we're given physical attributes here, I'm 6'1", 190, and but this kid is probably 6'8" and 300 pounds. I nicknamed him Small Fry, and he loved it because no one ever has said something like that to him. I went to a men's Christian breakfast, and I was probably the youngest person in the whole room by 20 years. You know what I said to everybody when I walked in? How you doing, young man? And you
Yep.
wouldn't believe the smiles that you get when you just break the ice like that. Everybody knows you're old. Everybody knows you're big. You're one of us, and you are loved. Okay, that's my soapbox. That's all.
I do that. I do
let me
that
just
so
ask,
much.
what happens when that, we have 5 people here. And I think that we can always say it, and a lot of these people listening also. So Yolanda Adams, Eric Hansel, also Karen Hasu, she runs Eric and Karen run a mindfulness audio podcast on LinkedIn Live, also on Fridays. I've been joining them Fridays, and so I'll give them a shout out. So look them up and listen to them. We got Yolanda, we got Mark Alvarez. Thanks, Mark, that said, great topic. And so we got all these people here, right? And sure, we're all good, we're all empathetic, and we're all doing what we can do maybe a little bit more than what others are doing. But what happens when? So I'll use Evelyn's example. When you walk into a room and you're trained in your mind and you got confidence and courage that you're going to walk into that room and own that room. Well, what happens when somebody or a group of people take that power away from you with what they're saying or what they're doing, or possibly not doing anything, which would be dismissing you physically and turning their back on you, or not giving you the microphone, or not, allowing you time to speak? You raise your hand and you're not called on, and for whatever reason. And so, for that purpose, for everyone listening, John, Derek, Matt, am I touching you with that feeling? I've definitely felt that like that in my life. Dismissed. Okay. So, when you walk into a room and you feel like your confidence is so high, and then something happens, and then it's like, whoa, I don't own this room anymore. Something happened and I'm dismissed. And so one of those things is not having a 4-year degree for me. Okay. I quit after 2 years. I ended up getting a 2-year degree, but I deal with a lot of real estate investors and hospitality, and a lot of like billion-dollar fund managers, and they all have master's degrees. They're doctors and things. They're part of this club. And I can tell you that I have been dismissed dozens of times, and I haven't really said anything. I just kind of move on. But it's the feeling, just like that young man that I said walked into an elevator, and he said he changes his behavior because it happens time and time and time and time again. And tell me if you've ever felt like that. And John, Derek, Matt.
I think what you're addressing is ego, and I've always felt ego was an acronym for edging God out. I absolutely know what the lady was saying about owning the room. I just want to be a part of the room. I buried my ego a long time ago. Treat everybody equal. I'm not going to be flamboyant or puff my chest out or anything. I am what God made me, and I am what's in my heart and in my soul and my head. But yeah, I've been dismissed. When I was in Seattle, would tell people that I was from West Virginia, and you know, if you got an original West Virginia joke, let me know because I haven't heard one in 2 decades. But you know, there's this hillbilly redneck persona to it. But I know who I am. I was raised right. And, you know, I love my state. And so I get a little bit of that. I don't want to oversell it. I get a little bit of that when I tell people where I'm from, but I say it straight. I don't try to brag about it, but I certainly don't downplay. You know, so I get what you're saying, but you know, the last time anybody asked me my college degree is the day after graduation, and that was in 1988. No one cares. No one cares. I don't even ask for educational credentials when I'm hiring somebody. I want somebody that's smart. And college in the end all be all like it was back in 1984. I had no way out. That's the only thing I could do. So I did it. If I had to do it over again.
It's nice to be there. I want to mention that Yolanda asked if she could jump in, and I texted her the link. So she's going to jump in. And Matt, you said you're going to jump out. You got to go. We're going to be on here for about 15 more minutes. And so Matt's going to go.
Yeah,
Yolanda's going to pop in.
Adam, I so appreciate what you're doing. I've got a 3 o'clock that I'm late for, a 4 o'clock that I'm late for. Bless you all, okay?
Thank you for everything that you shared, Derek. God bless you, man. And thank you. Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Evelyn might be coming back on. It's completely up to Yolanda said, I'm jumping into a meeting at 4. I'm a little late, Yolanda. I'm sorry. So I'm so glad that you shared that. And Yolanda was on episode number 2. We spoke about the Hispanic and Latino community. We talked about Latinx. And she's the one that educated me on the fact that I might get this number wrong, but Latinx is a fairly new term that is used to describe Latin American Latinos and Hispanics. And she said, but only like 2% of Hispanics and Latinos actually use that term, and they actually think it's possibly derogatory and not good. And so she spoke a lot about respect. And so I'm going to kind of repeat what you had said, Yolanda, on the comment here, but also I think the word respect is the word that you used the most in that hour-long conversation that we had several weeks ago. Derek, you are gone. I thought you were looking up at me and frozen, but you're there. You go. Okay. So John, it's you and me, buddy. I'm going, and then Evelyn might be coming back. I hope. Oh, okay. I wanted to respect her time, and there you are, Evelyn. I just wanted to say we're gonna keep on talking here, but I know how busy you are. You got a family.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. Next time I'll just do my laptop because this phone, my service is in and out.
That's cool. I appreciate your perspective on this, and we're family. So I think these are things that I've been very excited to talk about publicly because these are a lot of the conversations that we all have as good, decent people. We have a lot like over the phone, or over dinner or something like that in person. But I would like to continue these conversations. I should mention that the word uncomfortable, when I said this is the uncomfortable episode, I've been so inspired by Emmanuel Ocha. Oh, sorry, man. Sorry, bro. I'm going to mess up your name. But he started, played in the NFL, and he started Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man on YouTube and on his own channel. And it is fascinating and amazing. And I want to say that he started that around the time after George Floyd was killed. And the topics around police, the topics around race, it's a wonderful conversation. And so he's been very impactful to my learning and my own empathy. And that's why I called this the uncomfortable episode, is because these are these things to keep on talking about. So I think Mark just chimed in there, said that it's not accepted term by Hispanics across the board. And he's referring to Latinx. And it's not even pronounced Latinx, and X is not pronounced X in Spanish. Mark and I are in the hotel business together. Mark is an executive, and we've had some wonderful conversations. And so thanks, Mark, for joining in there. I'm going to, I want to go back to this about words and descriptions. And I just wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts on it, because Dr. Cooper, I've been reading what he has been publishing. He's a doctor at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. He used to be a professor over at University of Connecticut. And he points out the one particular issue. He says one primary issue with the phrase people of color is that it normalizes and privileges whiteness. For example, by separating white from this label in direct contrast to the cluster of multiple racial and ethnic groups, this phrase reinforces white superiority. In fact, on a pathological level, it reiterates the humanization of whites and the dehumanization of racial groups across the Africana, Latina, Asian, and Native American diasporas. The reality is that white is indeed a color, and people from all racial and ethnic groups deserve human dignity, liberties, and supports for holistic development. And his book is called From Exploitation Back to Empowerment, with the subtitle of Black Male Holistic Underdevelopment Through Sport and, in parentheses, Miseducation. Dr. Joseph N. Cooper. And I'm going to read this, and I just ordered it. Evelyn, you had said you had brought up the word empowerment before when I was referring to this book. Can I ask you what the term exploitation and exploiting of what he's describing here, people of color, you're very involved with Hospiamo, and I appreciate all your support. You live and breathe everything that we believe in. And John is a partner at Hospiamo and has been for quite a few years. We've worked on projects together. And so this topic is very much on the front of my mind. Hospiamo is a social enterprise, and we had been working on applying for like federal grants and workforce development and things like this. And so in order to describe the social groups that we want to lift up, train, engage, and empower into positions of influence and decision-making roles in hospitality by using education, it's in our description, and I had to kind of reword the communities that we're approaching, and I had to describe. And they use a term historically, or they want us to use a term historically marginalized populations and communities. And they also want us to use the term minority-owned businesses to help them start their own businesses, and women-owned businesses. Now, the term historically marginalized, is that, and it's up here on marginalized groups and minorities. Evelyn, is that kind of looked at as the same way from a perspective of a Black woman? That is the term marginalized, historically marginalized groups. And I just wanted to ask, how is that perceived by you or your community?
Honestly, I don't hear that term much.
Yeah. It's kind of what Dr. Cooper is saying. I think I'm interpreting a little bit, and by it normalizes and privileges the whiteness, and it separates it, right? So the fact is, yes, there are populations and communities that have been historically marginalized and put off to the side, and there is the conversation around what our society, as he so expertly said, in the pursuit of a more equitable and just society. He said it's important that we develop and use language that disrupts oppressive systems. Okay, and I think what he's saying is that the oppressive system of language is what he's describing that can be exploitive of populations and communities. I'm just interpreting and sharing my own thoughts. And John,
I could agree with that, and say also that it's always what you say. It's not. It's how you say something, and what you do. So I could agree with that.
Mark Alvarez just typed up, and Mark, I got to get you on here. We'll have a live episode just talking about you and your life, man. I love you, man. Thank you for sharing this. So he said, Dr. Cooper's quote is powerful. People of color is inherently a racist phrase. It signals the difference in skin tone, sets a stage for interaction to be based on skin tone and color. Thank you, Mark. Mark, I might mess up your position, but Mark is he's an executive, and his title is people, and he's the, I think, chief people officer at Rains Hospitality, formerly with HP Hotels. And I was when I first met Mark, that was not his title. He was vice president of operations, and he's since been promoted to chief people officer. And I could say that was a smart move by whoever owns that company, because Mark exemplifies that. And so thanks for sharing that. And Mark, I commit to that. We'll get you on here. Okay. Love what you have to say, and you're an important voice. Yeah. And so, as far as what we wanted to get to on this episode here, I want to just make sure we got to everything. I mentioned all that. I mentioned all this. And so, Evelyn, anything that you wanted to share? Your voice is such an important one, and I want to keep on talking with you publicly and share your thoughts. I have learned so much from you just with our brief conversations over the phone. You give me gifts of empathy. That's really how I look at it. And so your friendship is very important to me. We have love for each other. We refer to each other family, and I'm so honored that you even use that word to refer to me. And you've introduced me to so many people. And I do think that your friendship is a gift, and that's how I receive it. And so, any more gifts to give? Any more things that you wanted to share about this topic, or anything at all?
It's a topic that can go on for 365 days, probably 20. So I'm excited, to be with you, with Hospiamo, John, Matt, all of y'all. John Saint is it Saint Armor too?
John Saint Armor, yeah.
Yeah. This is my friend John too. Here too. We're all family, and I think that if we just started within our households, we're doing the change there. We can't change the world, but we can change the people that's in our world. That's in our immediate circle. Immediate. You want to reach everyone, but we should at least reach our households.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that I did 5 years ago was, and it wasn't for this reason, and I didn't know that the result was going to be this, but when I went into my own, call it my own business, right, and I became more in control of the people that I was professionally surrounded by. I was fully in control of, for the most part, more in control than I ever had been in my career into the choices that I was needing to make and the directions and directives that I was needed to make professionally. And that year, 2018, I was it was late in the year that I went became whatever you want to call it, independent, and started doing more, consulting independently. But earlier that year, I was told to fire somebody. I was working for I'll say it was between 2016 and 2018, because I have respect for all the employers. But I was asked to terminate someone, and I disagreed with it. Okay, I didn't think it should have been done. We did not go through the progressive discipline period of a verbal conversation and then a written conversation, some training, some counseling. Those conversations were not documented and they weren't even had. And I was asked to terminate someone, and I have shared this publicly before, and it's in Hospiamo's organizational documents, this part of this story. But I went ahead and did it. And there was I asked to see if I could offer the person severance. Person had been with the company for multiple years, and I was told no. And I went down and did it, and that was a defining moment of my life and career in not wanting to. And the reason why I did it was because I needed a paycheck. I needed to be employed, got a family, right? And so it was my decision. I decided to do that. I decided to say yes. And so I took that experience, and I decided to fire that person, and not offer severance. It was extremely difficult for me. It still is to even talk about. But I had some hate for myself for doing that. Okay, so this topic that you just brought up there, Evelyn, that I don't want to misinterpret what you were saying, but you said it's not all about color. It's not all about. It could be about size. Someone could be too small. Someone could be, by math, overweight, or too tall. John, like you said, someone that's 6'6". It could be about somebody having a position of power, and making decisions and choices that they make based on that power, and it affects lives and dozens of lives. And so, when we talk about walking into a room, you left for a few minutes, Evelyn, and came back, but Derek said something about walking into a room and owning it, and he said, it's all good, and that's what everybody should walk in, owning a room and feeling good about it. But at the end of the day, it would be a wonderful, perfect world if we all worked for everyone that was like you, Evelyn, John, Mark Alvarez, Yolanda Adams, Derek Farley, my brother Matt, the people that are on here. It would be beautiful if everyone was best friends with Dr. Joseph Cooper, and these conversations were happening. It would be a beautiful world if we did do this episode and spoke for an hour and a half every single day for 365 days straight. It would be a beautiful world, yes, but some things are not possible to happen like that, right? So in the world of we're hospitality people, right? And so there's 15 million jobs out there with hospitality, tourism, hotels, restaurants, food service, and then you add retail to it. I mean, there's another 10 million jobs in the United States, and so everyone's working, right? Everyone's everyone's got a supervisor, everyone's got a boss. And Evelyn, if everyone was a supervisor or a boss woman like you, I know that you don't refer to yourself as a boss, and I understand that. But everyone's got someone that writes the schedule, right? And refers to people. So it's not a perfect, beautiful world all the time, right? And so I'm going to say something, and then you guys can refer to it. But if there's anything that I think that I'm going to take away from this conversation, it has to. And what can I do? I think it has to do with to keep on talking about things like this publicly. Continue to give respect first and always. Ask questions. Just like that man, John, that asked you, like, do I intimidate you? Because he was told that. Have these conversations. And so I promise that these conversations will continue to happen here. You know, this is this was not developed as a a live event series in order to continuously talk about these type of topics. But it's my brother and I started it to do two things: be consistent and try to get better every week. There is no theme, there is no topic. We're not promoting anything. We're not doing anything other than giving voices to people that might not otherwise have a voice. And this is recorded. This is live. That's why I express appreciation and love for the people that come on and listen live and make comments, like Mark Alvarez and Eric Hansel, and then Derek Farley popping in. This is very new to me technically, with like doing this live event series. So I do think that we are consistent. This is our 8th week doing it in a row on Thursdays at 3. Okay. And I do believe that we're getting a little bit better every time. But I do think that the topic, I'm going to add something there. I think that we want to talk about things that are really important to talk about. And so I'm going to give that some thought about our future episodes. And I'm going to give some more thoughts about our the topics of what we are discussing. And Evelyn, you were the second episode. Like I told you, you've taught me a lot, and I learned a lot from you by listening. And so, hearing you speak here today has helped me, kind of realign what we're going to be talking about in future weeks. And John, you also, and I started the episode by just saying, and I was very sincere in telling you that how real and genuine you both are.
Very appreciative.
Well, I appreciate you very much. I've learned a career's worth of empathy and care for others, John, from our conversations, and also a lot about the world of the current recruiting culture, which of the hospitality industry and the hiring culture of our industry. And so that will definitely be a topic in the future. One future topic that we're going to be discussing, there is an entrepreneur Portuguese interpreter. She's going to be joining us. And so, and that also bumped into a conversation around the American Disabilities Act, Americans with disabilities. That is also a word that we don't know until hearing from someone that is part of that world. Maybe they have a disability. Maybe they are labeled as having a disability. How do they feel about it? I met a wonderful woman that is deaf and was on with the Social Enterprise Alliance that I've become a part of. I would encourage anybody to please be a part of that organization and look them up as Social Enterprise Alliance. Wonderful organization. And so I met her through that, and I asked her the question. I said, how do I refer to someone that can't hear? She said, it's deaf. It's deaf. I said, what about someone that can't see? Blind. I said, okay. I really did not feel comfortable saying deaf because for whatever reason, I thought maybe I shouldn't say that. We're going to be talking about that in future episodes. Okay. So, the idea of talking about these things, tell you, this is the best, whatever, 90 minutes that I've spent probably over the past few years, in sharing this and, allowing you to be free with your thoughts, but particularly, I'll speak selfishly for a minute. I appreciate being able to speak about things like this, to get these thoughts out of my head and into the world, whereas previously I was just having those thoughts and just talking to the people that I only knew and trusted, right? Because like, oh, we can't talk about that in public, or else we'll be, perceived as being someone that we're not. And so this is very helpful to me personally, and I really like it. I enjoy it, and it's very uncomfortable, sure, but I think that we should embrace it. I'm going to be done preaching here for so Evelyn, John, we can finish up here. Is there anything that you guys wanted to add before we finish up?
Just keep it real. Say hello to your fellow man. Make eye contact. Don't shy away from people. I don't know how many times I can walk through a store, and I don't care what color you are, just watching people and watch them bow their head when they walk by a person because they feel intimidated. I myself, I don't care who you are. And especially the way the media has pushed everything into everybody. I make it a right just to look at somebody, look him right in the eye and say, hey, how you doing today? How's it going? Have a great day. It doesn't hurt. Even if they don't answer back, I'll guarantee you they're going to go, wow, I can't believe they spoke to me. Keep it real.
John, let me ask you real quick. You are of a certain age, okay? And so that certain age, let's say it's over 50, okay? There are people who have retired that are over 60, even over 70 now, that are becoming unretired, coming back into the workforce for whatever they used to do. Human resources executives that have retired, that are coming back into, say, the hotel industry or hospitality industry that is growing with jobs, right? So for an example, people that might not be an expert at building engineering, but they're a good carpenter, and they have been retired and coming back. There's people that are getting security jobs because that's an important job to have because they have some sort of building safety background. John, is that a topic that we should be talking about as far as the people
Absolutely.
that are of a certain age that might be, say, difficulty finding a new job because you're
Absolutely.
older? I mean,
Absolutely.
John, your resume is massive. I mean, you are a military veteran from the United States Navy. You worked on jet engines. So for everyone listening, like you've seen Top Gun, John was like on those carriers sending off those planes. And so and he's been inside hundreds of hotels, managed hotels as a chief engineer. He's managed thousands of vendor and contractor relationships, and bought how many thousands of pounds of laundry in your career, and
Laundry,
tool belts,
FF&E,
and you name it, all those different things. And so, when I see your resume, I'm like, holy crap, can I just meet this guy face to face? But you have expressed, and we will talk about this in future episodes, it's not very easy for you to find new employment or a new role. And when they look at your resume, most recently, you shared with me that the person just didn't really know the job. They were in, a recruiting type role, but we're asking you questions and actually told you that you didn't have enough experience.
That's right.
Dude, I think that we can spend the next 365 days talking about that after we talk about this topic. And so, that'll be a future episode. Evelyn, anything that you wanted to share? Any suggestions for future topics of these type of episodes?
Well, no, John, thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you've done. You have more than enough experience. And
Well, thank you.
that's what my role as the founder of our empowerment group. Sometimes we need that person to tell us sometimes you're worth too much. You know, and how can the person that don't know you tell you how much experience you got? So
Right.
sometimes you have to look at that as ignorance and just move on.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, because again, that's really sad to tell somebody that you don't have enough experience. You don't even know me enough to tell me that. And you should be really honoring me for serving our country in such a high role and, you know, doing the stuff I've done. But, you know, and I'm talking first, you know, first person, but I'm speaking on you. I, I'm sorry that happened. I don't like the word using the word I'm sorry. I apologize that happened to you.
Hey, it is what it is. You know, you said it right. Adapt, overcome, and move on.
Move on. You know, I look at a lot of people, that's definitely a conversation. A lot of people that's actually overqualified that gets told
Yeah.
they're not qualified. You know, and again, how can you tell me that if you don't give me the chance? So there we are again being discriminatory once again. So discrimination happens in many different fields, not just age, color,
Yep.
shape. You know, I was 29 years old as a GM, and I was told I was too young. But the very next year, I won GM of the Year out of 34 hotels. So you know, you can't. The Bible says, and I know it's something I shouldn't talk about on LinkedIn, but the Bible says you can learn from the mouth of babes. So we
Yep.
can learn from our babies.
That's right.
But you
Absolutely.
get
You know,
so
you
many
are
people.
you are never too old to learn from anybody, younger and or older.
And the day you stop learning, um, that makes you that makes you, you know, we don't like using the word stupid or dumb, but only a dumb person don't want to learn.
That's it. Makes you close
I
minded.
catch myself on the flight asking the pilot how far were we up in the sky. You know, you know, when I get off, I want to know everything. Will I ever know everything? No. Only person is Jesus Christ. But I'm going to know a lot before I leave this earth because I'm teachable.
No, Evelyn, John actually saw me go through the process of into a situation, into a hotel that we worked together on in the last couple years. And I had the mindset that I knew exactly what this hotel and what the people needed. I mean, John, I mean, I wrote it all up and I had only really visited there a couple times. I thought I knew it all. I had it down. And it was part of my job to know. And I have said this many times to John and also Andrea Morton, who I worked with, and we worked with on that project. Almost everything, Evelyn, I was wrong. Almost every single thing that Mr. Hotel Guy that had been in the business for 25 years and thinks that he knew all the things that needed to happen, all the little, you know, nuances, and this person needed to be trained here. This is what the manager job should be like. This is what the hotel needs. These are the leaks that I found, and that's how to fix it. You know, I was wrong. I was right about a couple things, but if there was 100 things, I got 98 of them wrong. And that was a life-changing experience for me. And I did not only learn from that one, I started looking back on my life and career and thinking, I've had that attitude going into many opportunities, call it maybe even a new job, maybe if it's a new friendship. You know what I mean? Like just assuming that I knew what was surrounding me has gotten me into some trouble that I wasn't even aware of. And so I looked back and I started saying, like, man, I remember going into the same situation with the same attitude that I just knew. I was 100% sure that I knew what needed to be done, and I was completely wrong. And I wish that I had learned that earlier in my life and career. And as we talk about this, I do think about family. I do think about what you just said about learning from our babies, right? I'm learning more from my kids than I have from anybody. And part of that learning process of learning what their needs are and trying to anticipate them in a very new society, in a new, you know, generation, um, as a parent, I have seen and experienced a very relative feeling of I thought I knew. that happens quite often as a dad. For me, I thought I knew, but I had no idea, right? And so I've been particularly a little bit later in my life after, you know, I for the past probably 4 or 5 years, I have been humbled, but I've been open to being humbled. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of end on that because I think I was closed off a little bit earlier on in my life and career as saying I was humble, but I really wasn't open to being vulnerable and humble. And so I'm not there yet, believe me, but I do. These conversations bring up memories and bring up learning experiences and opportunities and challenges, as we say. So let's keep on talking about them. And so I wanted to just express my love and care and just appreciation for both of you spending an hour and a half and being honest and genuine as you are. And thanks for your friendship and everything. So, any last words?
No, we love you too, and I love you too, John. We love y'all all. We gotta love each other.
Greatly appreciate this episode. Learned a lot.
Thank you,
Met
John.
new
Thank you,
friends.
Evelyn. Thank you, everyone who commented. Thanks to my brother of brothers, Matt Zimbrowski with Agile Game Changers. He has pushed me into the deep end of learning something new with this whole thing that we're doing and being consistent and just trying to get better. He is an Agile coach, and he is an amazing person and coach for me personally. So thank you, Matt. Thanks, Derek, for jumping in and being a part of this also and sharing your thoughts. Thanks for everyone who commented, Yolanda, Mark, everyone, Eric Hansel. And so we will end it up here. We are going to end the broadcast, and thank you. Sending love to everyone out there, and thanks for joining here. And this will be continuously looping, so everything that we said is going to keep on being out there on the internets.
Fantastic.
Thanks, everybody,
Have a
very
great
much.
evening.
Bye, Evelyn.
Have a good
Bye,
day.
John. We'll talk to you
Much
very
love.
soon. Thanks for spending the time.
See you. Bye now.